am glad to be here with you, and we are going to talk about public speaking. Right. I have been impressed by the icebreaker of Sarah and Jack, really. So now it's my turn to make a kind of icebreaker, or we could call it a pitch. So I'm going to give you my pitch, and you are going to analyze it. My pitch is going to be around 5 minutes, and then we will make a collective feedback to understand the ingredients to make this pitch, right? So I want you to be very focused on the pitch and to try to be smart. Okay? So let's go. My name is Pierre LiCavoli. Yeah, it's Italian. And I spent all my life in France because I grew up in France. Now I'm a trainer and a coach in public speaking, so it's my job. But I used to be very different. I used to be very shy and introverted. When I was 5 years old, I remember I was with my parents in the south of France, and I was watching the starry sky. And I asked to my mother the name of the big star. It was so shiny. I was like, oh, what is this special star? And she just answered me, you know, my son, this star is the pole star, l'étoile du berger in French. So it's a bit tricky because in French we could translate this expression as the shepherd star. So I asked why we call it like that, and she told me the shepherds use this star to find back their way when they are lost. So the first job I wanted to do was to become a shepherd because I wanted to lost myself just to be able to talk with stars. But finally, I became a bit older and I thought, okay, maybe if I want to talk with stars, it would be better if I become a scientist. That's why I studied physics studies. So after my A-level, baccalaureate, I pursued with a bachelor's degree in physics, then a master's degree in astrophysics, astronomy, and finally I undertook a PhD in particle physics. It was pretty tough for me, but finally I got it. But to be honest, I was not so happy because, let's say, the thematic was so interesting. I worked on cosmic rays. It was, wow, like in a movie. But every day I was doing some algorithms, and it was pretty boring for me because every day I was like that. And I was very isolated, very alone. That's why I changed my career. And I started to become a teacher in physics and chemistry in mid school and with some particulars. Finally, I left France to Colombia because I wanted to have an international experience. So I started to give classes at the university in Colombia. I learned Spanish and it was a big challenge for me. Not everything happened as I wanted to happen in Colombia because I haven't been paid by the university. So we had, let's say, a shit show. And finally, I came back to France. And I started to work as project manager in finance, let's say like that. It was, I got a very high wage, but I was not happy again because every day, again, I was like that. So finally, after 7 months, I left this company and I thought what I want to do in my life, what I really want to do. So I thought about 3 needs. The first one is to be independent. The second one is to do something which makes sense for me. And the third point is to make something a bit innovative. I mean, something that I can say it's mine, it's my method. That's why I started to work as a public speaking coach, because I love talking and I love listening too. I am very versatile. So, but in this time I was like, okay, I have no training, no diploma in public speaking. So I started to do some theater in a drama school for 1 year, and it was pretty intense at Courfland, maybe you know it, in Paris, and it was a great training for me. Then I continue with training in coaching, and I got my certification. Now I am very happy because I found my X. You know this expression? And I love it. It's in a drama school we use this kind of expression because you can say, okay, Ashish, you have to go here on your X. So it's like your place, you know? And sometimes in life we can struggle to find our X. So now I am very happy, and if you have any questions, just feel free to ask me. That's the end of my speech/pitch. So now I'm going to ask you, what do you think about my speech? And did you find some ingredients, some techniques to improve my speech, or just to highlight the strengths of my speech/pitch? Yes, Pierre.
I thought what was really a big strength of your speech was definitely to show the difference between when you were happy and when you were just like typing. So the movement was very nice.
Okay.
Definitely.
Thank you. Jack?
Well, for me, I definitely understood your structure from going as a child all the way up to now, and how you grew as a person. And I love your 3 points: independence in a job, something that makes sense, and something that you can create, something that you can make. And I think that is a really good way to look at a job and say, do I want this? Am I going to be able to be independent? Is it gonna make sense? Am I doing something worthwhile? And am I gonna benefit from what I'm doing? And I really think it's a great way of trying to find your job. So I thought that was great. And then lastly, how you found your ex. I like that statement because I used in my speech to find like how when you're looking for a dream, it's like finding a treasure, and it made me think that when you found your treasure, you found the X that marked the spot, which is really connected. So
Thank you so much, Jack. Great feedback. Another one? Yes.
I just like to say that I really enjoyed your gestures, especially the typing.
Okay.
It made it very memorable in my mind.
Thank you. Colin, Ashish, Rin, what do you think? Yes.
Yeah, I like the fact that you paused a lot and you give us like time to reflect, because I tend to have this problem where I go like on, and so I thought that was really helpful for us.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Now, yes, Colin.
Yeah, two things. One was the progression, and it proves that you just don't have your ex overnight. You have to go on a journey in life, and it will take, you don't know how many years. What I did notice when you were speaking was you were almost dancing. You were floating back and forth, and I was thinking, how could you make each movement precise? Why are you in that spot? Why are you in that spot? Why are you in that spot? But it was hard because you kept moving back and forth. So that's something I would say probably needs some work.
Interesting.
But I liked the organization and progression.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yes, Ashish.
So, first of all, for me, the speech was interesting from several viewpoints because it told us about your journey in different stages of your life, and how, in the end, where you are today, you found this place, the point that Colin has already mentioned. And the second thing is it was quite relevant to the audience, I think, because a lot of us, including the teens here, would probably be wondering what they would like to do in their life. So it had a connect with the audience. And the same way for me and Colleen, for example, it was useful. In terms of what I could suggest for you to improve is when you are talking about a journey and when you give us a point that you were introverted, how did journey change you? What transformation it brought to you? And today, where you are, how different do you feel compared to when you were a child, compared to when you were a physicist, and today, for example, right? And then, if I may suggest, is to also vary your vocal variety at the time when you want to emphasize a point versus when you want to tell us a story and say, okay, this was boring.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have two. They're kind of questions with remarks, but I'm not quite sure. The first one is when you say that you went from France to Colombia and France. This could be a good idea in what you were saying at points where you could bounce from one side. I think they would be interesting. I don't know if you did it because I can't quite remember, but going from France at this side of the point to Colombia at this side of the room and then back to France. I think that would have been very interesting and very interesting. But I'm not sure if you did it. You might have, and I didn't realise. And my second, it's not a point, but I think it would have been interesting to come back to the reason about the skies and the stars, because I thought it was like just to come back and finish this book. Because I thought it was very nice to introduce the idea of X plus the spot, or the X, but I think it would have also been very nice to come back into full circle. But maybe that's not what you feel right now. But yeah, I was curious about the skies and the stars. It's dreamy.
Okay, perfect. I continue. So, thank you so much for your feedback. Now I am going to give you my secrets. Well, that's not a secret, but let's say the work behind the speech. And that's the value I want to give you. So the first one is about hook. How can you catch the attention of the audience? So you can create some sentences like a hook, like a teasing. For example, did you notice some hooks in my speech?
Well, the when you talk about your mum and the sky, that's definitely the thing. Yeah.
Yes. Another one? Rowan? Feel free.
Just like the whole beginning part where you try to get our attention with like all your anecdotes.
Yes. The idea is just to give the beginning of the story. If you don't give enough, we are not going to understand that this point is very important.
Yeah,
If you
made it
give
really
too much,
personal. You made it really personal, like you
yes,
showed a lot of detail and linked it to yourself.
yes. So the idea, because it's about storytelling, so just give the right amount of information to be curious, but not too much. So that's the first point. Hook. The second one is the stories itself. So if you give a teasing, if you give a hook, you have or you should have a database of stories. For example, when I mention Colombia, I have many stories to tell you. I just mentioned the one with the university because I have not been paid, and I can develop. And the story I have on it can last like 20 minutes or 1 hour, it depends. It can be flexible. I have many stories about the culture in Colombia, the people I met. So I have a real database of stories in Colombia. I didn't mention it, but when I was a teacher in Marseille, I worked in the infamous northern neighborhoods of Marseille, maybe you know it. So the north part of Marseille, which is a bit dynamic, dangerous, let's say like that. So I was in a big school and I had many crazy stories in this mid school. So that's the database. It's like a drawer, a drawer, and so I have my stories inside. The last secret is about the transitions. For me, it's very important to make a transition between my sentences. For example, the biggest transition I had, like a pivot, was when I was mentioning the PhD, the research I made, and I was not happy. So I just materialized the transition with this small actor thing, just to be very impacted for you. Just you remember why I wanted to change my path. So it's very important to write it down. If you want to create your own legend, your own pitch, you should make a brainstorming first, then try to have a kind of logical way in all your life. Even if you are young, you have already many stories to tell. And then let's just unzoom on the sheet and try to every time write on the side a story attached to your event, your personal event. Your personal event can be a diploma you got, can be a competition you won when you were younger, or a drama sometimes in your life. I mean, parents get divorced, something like that. How it impacts you, and what did you extract from these events? Because it shaped you. So, like Jack said, these kind of things are so important, and knowledge is power. So if you know, if you are conscious of your life, you will be ready to tell with the good angle your life, and people will be very amazed by your way of telling your life. This kind of question, so let's say this kind of pitch, I give it in interviews sometimes. When people tell me, okay, tell me about your life, the first thing I ask is how much time I have, because my pitch can last 1 minute if I want to make it express, or 20 minutes. So it's very flexible, just to be sure to connect with your audience and to be in the good spots. That's the end of my workshop. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me right now. Rian, you wanted to yes.
So when you were, I know this may be unrelated to structuring a speech, but when you were in Marseille, did you ever visit the Cité Radieuse?
Wow, that's an amazing question, because I used to live inside.
Really?
Really?
Because every time I go near Marseille, I've been asking my parents. I ask them, "Can I go to the Cité Radieuse?" And every time we just missed it. But next time we're gonna go to Marseille just to see the Cité Radieuse.
Definitely you should. And before living in Marseille, I didn't know nothing about the Cité Radieuse. So it's a very famous building, which was built by Le Corbusier, so a very famous architect. And when I entered in this building, I just fell in love. I was like, oh, I really want to live there. And I spent 4 years inside. And the rooftop is a blast. Another question? Feel free to ask. Samara? Well, just to answer the question of Ashish, because the aim of this kind of pitch is to get connected with the audience and just to have good talks. So to answer your question, how I change from a shy guy to an extroverted guy? Well, let's say that every time you have an opportunity to go out of your comfort zone, do it. Every small steps count. Travels counted a lot for me, because the first time I traveled, I was 15 years old. I was in Malta, and I was like that. Really, I was so blocked in my body. It was impossible for me to talk with someone else. and I just started to observe the leadership. Why some teenagers were able to just say, "Hey guys, let's go," and all the group follow. And me, if I wanted to do it, I was like, "Guys, let's go." Nobody follows me. So I started to analyze it, and it's very connected to your own perception of yourself. So just allow yourself. Just allow yourself, because you are legitimate. When you speak for a workshop or for a speech, and I will end after that, you have a kind of mandate, yeah, for X minutes. So feel free to use it completely, because people are here for you. So don't, either you are here, either you are not here. You can't be here at 50%, 100%. You are the boss of the area. So just feel free to talk with your audience. That's the most important. Okay, I'm going to end now, and thank you so much for your feedback.